Dude, it was like nonstop. Okay, non-stop for 90 minutes of honking, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then I just forget about it. The next day, exact same time, right? All of a sudden I start hearing honking again. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I'm just off 17th Ave, but it's normally not ridiculous and nonstop. So I get my shoes on and go check it out. Do you know what's happening, buddy? There was literally like a dozen people with cardboard signs, like a mini protest. And all the signs were like, honk if you think Kenny should resign. Fire the UCP. Like, we all know that the political leanings in Alberta are normally pretty lopsided. But, I mean, currently, you might as well put up a sign that says, honk if you like ice cream. Like, it was nonstop honking. Everyone was all on board with this. And there was a point where I'm just like, this neighborhood's becoming unlivable. Like, on the third day that this was happening, I'm like, what do we do? Like, I'm all for firing the UCP, but can the rallies happen a little further from my house? Right? That's privilege, right, Adam?
That's the definition of privilege. Absolutely.
One guy wasn't honking. I saw one guy not honking. I'm like, there's Kenny's one supporter. He rolled his window down. He's like, my horn's broken. Right?
Amazing.
Honestly, man, after I saw all those signs, I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm just like, I guess you just got to put up with it. But anyways, so that was the last few days for me there. Should we start this thing?
Yeah, we already did, just to let you know.
I
got all that.
You keep catching me mid-rant here. All right.
The best part of the day right there. So.
Well, everybody, welcome to the Walk-Off. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Scott Belford, joined by always by my good buddy and co-host Adam Mack.
Hello.
Should we do the socials? Start with that?
Let's do that, yeah.
All right. So Adam runs the Instagram. That's the Walk Off Podcast. I run the Twitter at Walk Off Podcast. Go ahead and follow us and shoot us messages whenever you feel like. Our Walk Off community has become quite active and quite cool. I know we get messages quite often, whether it's for questions for our guests or whatnot. So feel free to reach out. Our guest today, speaking of guests, pretty excited about this one. We got to sit down with this gentleman a couple weeks ago. Catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays organization. He is playing currently with the low A Dunedin Blue Jays. Actually won Dunedin Blue Jay of the week the other week. There's Zach Britton. He was drafted in the 5th round last year, looking to move his way up the prospect rank. Big lefty bat. Projects as a catcher. He was moved to the outfield because of some injuries, but now they're playing him behind the plate again. So that's coming up in about 30 minutes-ish. And of course, as always, your guest is brought to you by YourRate.ca. I know mortgage rates are on their way up come June 1st. So if you're looking to lock in at a reasonable rate, that's YourRate.ca. Darren Brown, the mortgage broker, will help you out. It's all paperless, online, and easy to follow. YourRate.ca. And, buddy, speaking of guests, can we just touch on the fact we talked to Sean Green last week?
Yeah, I'm still pretty unsure if that actually happened or not. The
right?
12-year-old in me is pretty blown away.
Yeah, and I'm the same. Adam and I both grew up in the 90s as Jays fans, and so, of course, Sean Green is royalty. And it's funny because you made a really apt comparison to this team with Delgado and Green, if you want to jump in here.
Well, the homegrown talent of Green and Delgado that came up together. Hard not to compare it to Bichette and Vladdy.
It is.
Unfortunately, we did lose Sean Green because the financial situation of the Blue Jays wasn't secure enough in the late 90s. So,
and hopefully Rogers provides that security and we can lock both those gems up.
Absolutely.
So we are going to go over lots of things. Big show today. We'll talk about yesterday's disappointing loss to the Red Sox and the disappointing series in general. We'll get into where we're at pitching-wise. See some injuries are coming back. Thomas Hatch and Anthony Castro among that. So we'll talk that. And we'll also go over what's been happening around the major leagues. Tony LaRussa is a thing we want to touch on. We'll also get into Shohei Ohtani and no-hitters. So let's start this. Where are the Blue Jays at right now? We're at 25% in the season. So we'll give some context here. They're 23-19. They are in 4th place in the AL East. Now, that said, they're only 2.5 games back of Boston for 1st place, and it is just a meat grinder in there currently with the Rays and the Yankees. So the way the schedule's shaping up, they play Tampa Bay for 3 here this weekend, then they play New York for 3, and then they play Cleveland for 3. So it is a pretty tough schedule ahead of them. Now, they have looked good against the Yankees. They're 4-2 this year against the Yankees. They're 2-3 against the Red Sox, and they're 2-1 against the Rays. So they are above 500 in that AL East. I don't know. I know that yesterday was tough.
To say the least, yeah.
A few things to touch on. Steven Matz. A lot of shit has been flung his way after his last few outings, and I don't necessarily believe it's deserved. He had a very gutsy performance yesterday. 6 innings. He had a rough second where he got blown up for 5 runs. He had 2 outs, nobody on. So this all happened with 2 outs. There were many occasions where the Jays had a chance to get out of it, not just him, and it didn't quite happen. The Jays came back. The offense showed. They didn't need to go to the bullpen right away. Steven Matz grabbed the ball at 50 pitches pretty much after the second and pitched another 4 innings. Okay? Rafael Dolis blew the save yesterday. Everyone is talking how Dolis stinks. He's the worst. Why is Dolis in this bullpen? Well, I hate to break it to you. Yeah, he's got a 5 ERA now, but before that blow up and allowing 3 runs in 1 inning, he was fine. He was probably the most solid thing at the back end of that pen.
Yeah.
And Adam, we've talked about this a few times, man. People hate Dolis. And why? Because he's hard to watch.
He's hard to watch.
He takes forever between pitches. He doesn't give in to batters, so he'll allow guys to walk. Even yesterday, how many hard hit balls did Dolis allow? I can't even think of one.
It was a weird game.
It was a weird game. And you know what? There's 162 games in a baseball season, and you're going to have some heartbreaking losses. And unfortunately, yesterday was one of them.
Yeah.
And yesterday was tough to watch and a tough game for us to deal with as fans because in every aspect of that game, it felt like the Blue Jays should have won. They showed resilience. They came back every time they were down. Individual performances like Steven Matz had resilience to it.
I was really impressed with Matz and the way he responded.
Me too.
It was tough.
And that's the thing with baseball is you're going to have scenarios like this. Like everyone's ready to cut Dolis, but Mariano Rivera, and I'm not comparing Dolis with Mariano Rivera, but Rivera is maybe the greatest closer to ever play the game, and he blew saves every single year.
Yep.
It happens. The best blow saves is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The best in baseball currently blow saves. And everyone's like, oh, I can't wait for Julian Merriweather to be back. I can't wait for Julian Merriweather to be back too. But if you think Julian Merriweather's never going to blow a save, never going to have a rough outing, like, let's be reasonable here.
No, you're right.
So let's all take a breath and understand that, yes, it sucks we lost that series to the Red Sox, especially considering yesterday was such a winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the number 1 team in the division. And I know you don't feel they're for real, Adam. Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Do you, even after watching this series, what do you think of the Red Sox?
I think that series could have easily been a 3-0 sweep for us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I still think they're... I don't know. I don't think there's any way that at the end of the year, the Red Sox win the AL East.
I kind of feel the same way. When you look at this Blue Jays team, I feel like they have not... I think they're 75% as good as they could be. What do you think? This isn't the best this team can be, right?
No, not at all. What I did like was the attitude that we saw on the field. I know, I think it was in the 4th or 5th inning there, We had runners on first and second, and Grichuk hit one. Just a infield hit to the shortstop. Should have been a double play to end the inning, but he busted his ass
Yes, that's right.
down the first baseline and beat it out to keep the inning alive. And I think we ended up scoring 2 or 3 runs in that inning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of thing I want to see. So it's so easy to hit that hit and then just jog it out, and in your head say, "Ah, shit, I
It's
just
out
hit
for
into a
sure.
double play."
Yeah.
Right. So those are the kind of things that I like to see. Everything else will work out.
Agreed. And while we're talking about schedule here, man, I mean, the Blue Jays statistically, according to the MLB, have had the toughest schedule to date. And I mean, it doesn't end yet. We just said the next 3 series coming up. But you know who the Blue Jays have yet to play? They've yet to play the Minnesota Twins. They've yet to play the Detroit Tigers. They've yet to play the Baltimore Orioles. Now, you start adding up how many games they have against those 3 bottom feeding teams. Those are the worst teams in the AL East. They have 31 games to go against those teams. So they're knocking off all these tough games against Tampa Bay and New York and Boston. And this end of the year schedule is going to be a more attainable schedule. It's going to be a schedule that allows them to go on some runs, to win some 6 games, go on some 6-game win streaks, right?
Absolutely.
Make some hay, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah, and teams like the Red Sox, who are at the top of the division, have played the Orioles 10, 12 times so far. The Yankees have played them 7 or 8 times, and the Tigers a handful of times. So I'm as happy as can be right now with the Blue Jays. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I wish we had more pitchers, but that's about it.
And I mean, to put a little perspective on pitching for people who are constantly screaming from the top of the mountaintops that the offense is fine, pitching is the biggest problem. How could Atkins and Shapiro do this to this team? Blah, blah, blah. Listen, the starting rotation is in need of another guy or two. I mean, it's pretty much a 3-man rotation. And then you're throwing Kay and Stripling in there, hoping that they pitch 3 to 5 innings and make it a semi bullpen day. Like, that's how they've been rolling with this rotation. There's been a pile of injuries. A pile of injuries. Do you know what their team ERA is at? 3.93. They're 7th in the AL, in the American League. So they're the middle of the pack in the American League. And they're cobbling it together. Yes, they need starting pitching. But it's not a dire need right now, May 21st. It's going to be looked after. Like, if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan and you don't think that Atkins and Shapiro are seeing the same team we are, you're insane. Of course. And I keep hearing this $150 million contract to Springer is being tossed around like, oh, we should have spent it on pitching. No, we shouldn't have. Wait till George Springer plays.
Yeah.
Like, our best player on this team, and maybe that's an overstatement because Vladdy's having a hell of a year. But technically who was considered the best player at the start was George Springer. He's the most experienced guy on this team. He has proven he can do it year in and year out. He has a World Series. He's won before, you know? So for us to middle of May be panicking like we are when you're 4 games above 500 and just had the most difficult schedule in baseball, and on top of that had to deal with an onslaught of injuries, we're fine.
Yeah.
And while we're talking pitching, let's talk some injuries that are coming back, right? Rafael Dolis just got off of the IL, which is another thing people need to keep in mind, right? Like,
With his performance yesterday.
Like, yeah, it sucks he blew up, and it's not Charlie's fault. I'm not going to blame Charlie. I would have rather seen Dolis and Romano switched,
right?
But that's fine. You know, you won. Who knows? There's nothing to say Romano wouldn't have blown it in the 9th. We're not, fortune tellers. You don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, half that Red Sox lineup is hitting over 300 right now, so.
They're the best in baseball for a reason. But Thomas Hatch is on his way back. He actually pitched with the Buffalo Bison yesterday. He hit velocity up to 94 miles an hour. He is around 3 innings in. They'd like him to hit 4 or 5 innings before he gets some big league innings. But he's close. Ross Atkins said before June he very well could be in the rotation.
Hatch does not excite me.
That's fair.
That's all I have to say.
No, and that's fair. Hatch doesn't really excite me either, but he does add depth to this pitching staff, and they need it right now. Anthony Castro is pitching off a mound. He looks like he could be back any day. So sometime, hopefully within the next week, is where they look like they're with him. Guys are on their way back, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's good news. And, of course, we're going to talk about him again because everyone's talking about him. We seem to have this Alek Manoah talk every single podcast, but he keeps performing. I mean, last week we talked about how Ross Atkins went to Trenton and watched him pitch. So his third outing was 2 days ago. 6 innings, 10 Ks, 4 hits, 1 earned run.
Now, if you're Alek Manoah and the big man in the front office comes down to watch you pitch, you know he's there, right? Like,
of course.
Do you think they tell him before the game, or does he have to kind of like find out through side channels? Like, no. Oh, hey, psst, by the way.
For sure, that's how it was. For sure. But I guarantee he knew that he was there. Yeah. I guarantee Alek Manoah is listening to every word Ross Atkins said because...
I thought you were going to say, listening to every word we're saying.
No, yeah, I wish. Every word Ross Atkins said, Manoah's got his ear to the ground.
How could you
because Atkins came out after that second outing, right? And he said, listen, Alek Manoah is killing it. Super impressive stuff. He's yet to allow a run. We're really excited about him. Here are some things we'd like to see before we consider bringing him up to the big leagues. We'd like to see his breaking ball throwing more. He's relying heavily on his fastball. He's figured out how to get AAA hitters out. We would like to see him use that breaking ball in different counts. You know what he did in his third outing? Threw more breaking balls than he had in any start to that point. On top of that, Pitching Ninja grabbed his breaking ball and started featuring it. And, of course, you know, that's pitching Twitter royalty right there. Like, if you get featured by Pitching Ninja, it means you're doing something right. And all 3 pitches that were featured were breaking balls, right? Just nasty breaking stuff. I don't know how much more he needs to prove at AAA before they bring him up, but I don't think it's much.
I think he needs to just not get blown up for 3 or 4 more starts.
Exactly.
He needs to stay healthy, and he needs to... Yeah, like, I don't know. At this point, it just feels like a big enough sample size. Like, I know it's a tiny sample size. Like, that's crazy to even say. But...
Well, we talked about it yesterday, that he currently has 38 professional innings under his belt. And that counts the 18 he's had this year with AAA. You know, like he's very new to his professional baseball career.
He's fresh, but he's not young. And let's just remind people of that. He did go the college route. He's not 20, right? He's I think
he's not Simeon Woods Richardson.
He's a few months younger than Nate Pearson.
Yeah.
He looked good in spring training.
He did
against
the Yankees,
Major League Baseball hitters. Again, just spring training, but he hasn't given us any reason to go, oh, maybe not.
I agree. And you and I were, at the beginning of the season, we're saying stuff like he should not get a sniff of the big leagues all year. And he has proved that to be not the case. Yeah. You know, like we've kind of backtracked on that. And everyone has. You know, like we were talking to Arden Zwelling and he was like, oh, yeah, I would have said no way for Manoah. And now it looks like he'll be in the bullpen. Is his guess. And this was 3 weeks ago. And now it looks like, why wouldn't they just bring him up as a starter? Especially when you look at guys like Ross Stripling and Anthony Kay and how much struggle they have had this year getting clean innings. How much worse can Manoah be? I don't know.
And this is what you want from your prospects, right? It's just be so good they can't ignore you, and that's what's
Yeah,
happening. So
exactly. Manoah's done everything he's had to do. It's
now
impressive.
I will say, if they bring him up, barring injuries, knock on wood, Joe Woodhead here. I hope they give him a little bit longer leash than Nate Pearson had.
I think they will. I
Like if he
personally
comes
look at
up and gets blown up in his first appearance, right? Gives up
mhm.
5-6 runs in 2 or 3 innings, whatever. I hope we get to keep seeing him. Like I don't think that's good for anybody to get
I
brought up and then set back down. Like I don't know. I didn't like anything about what happened with Nate Pearson, and maybe
I
it turned out to
think
be an injury thing. But
I think
I
it was
don't.
a little bit of an injury thing. I think it was a little bit of a screw up
I think,
on the front office part.
and part of what's going on with Nate Pearson too is that he is working on some mechanical things, right? He's trying to fix some things in his delivery so he's not quite so violent with some of his
Well,
movements, right?
he's made some major changes in his delivery, and it's like a swing. You start working with the mechanics on your swing, and of course, it's going to take some time to get
Yeah.
the feel for your new swing. Very similar, right? So when Nate is throwing the ball, and this is something he just started working on after his first injury in spring training, was working on some mechanics. So it's very likely he's just not there yet. And maybe the front office brought him up because they were desperate for innings. They were hoping that maybe he would just find it.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And then they were like, ugh,
Didn't
we should
find it, didn't
probably.
find the strike zone.
And I think Pete Walker was a guy who looked at him and was like, there's something to be said for making a mistake and then correcting it. And I think that's what happened with Pearson. It is too
Sure.
bad he got yo yoed around. But I'd rather see him progressing in AAA than getting blown up in the majors and losing all sorts of confidence, right? I mean,
Right.
he is the number one pitching prospect in all of baseball. And
Yeah.
everyone is so quick to discard that information, right? And just kind of look at Alek Manoah and Simeon Woods Richardson and make them the new shining star, the new fancy toy that everyone can't wait to play with, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't make Nate Pearson any less dominant when he's on his game. And so I think when Nate finds himself, it's going to be nothing but good news for the Blue Jays. And who knows? We could be laughing in August.
Yeah.
We could be watching Manoah and Pearson in this rotation. Can you imagine? And it's not that crazy.
Yeah. So it'd be Ryu, Matz, Ray, Pearson, Manoah. That would be our 5.
Sounds pretty sexy to me. Should we talk no hitters? Did you have any more Blue Jays stuff you wanted to touch on here before we
Uh,
move on?
I just want to mention Kevin Biggio has
Yeah,
been performing a lot better lately.
he has, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, what I liked again in the game last night was, I mean, every team plays the shift against him, right?
Yeah.
And it's nice to see he's starting to go the other way and just find holes in that left side of the field. So
And it was beautiful to watch. It wasn't exit velocity driven. Like he was just like, I don't care how hard I hit this. It doesn't matter because they're giving me the entire left side of the infield to get through. you know?
yeah, I mean, and not just for I mean, I'm a big Kevin Biggio fanatic.
Yeah.
I'll support him until the day he retires.
Yeah, we're both big Biggio guys, I know.
But beyond that, I hope this is just a trend that starts to take over the MLB. Like,
Agreed. Agreed.
it's so hard to watch people that can't lay down a bunt or anything. I just watched the other day, Jacques Peterson laid down a bunt on the left side. Like he's a power hitter.
Yeah.
So watching him lay down bunts and just take a single, like let's start to get that momentum rolling league wide. That it's okay
100%.
to do that.
I
So,
mean, we saw in that first game of the Red Sox series when Reese McGuire was in, he laid down a bunt for a single. Just tuck
absolutely.
it, So it's good to see. All right, now I do wish to get into the no-hitters going on in the major leagues right now. Corey Kluber had a no-hitter 2 days ago, I think it was, which was the 7th no-hitter in 7 weeks. Of course, one of those was Madison Baumgartner's no-hitter, which was considered a unofficial 7-inning no-hitter.
Right.
So even if it is just 6, that's a lot.
Let's just touch on that unofficial no-hitter. First of all, that happened in a doubleheader, correct?
Yes.
So doubleheaders this year are 7 innings each.
Right.
Pitched
As
the
an
entire
official game.
as an official game. Pitched 7 no-hit innings.
Yes.
Doesn't count as an official no-hitter. But if he pitched 7 no-hit innings in a 9-inning game that got rained out,
Yeah, that's a no-hitter officially.
that's an official no-hitter because it went 7 innings. It counts.
100%.
What the fudge is baseball thinking?
I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, baseball doesn't think lots of times, man. If we're gonna start asking where Manfred's head's at, we'll be asking forever.
It's weird because I'm in this hand I'm defending that being a no-hitter, and then on the other hand, this conversation we're about to have, I'm about to say there's too many no-hitters.
Yes.
So let's get into that.
Let's get into that. So let's start with the fact there has been 6 official no-hitters so far to date, which is the most no-hitters at this point in the season ever. In fact, you had some stats on that you were telling me yesterday, right?
Sure.
You're like, great, throw me under the bus, Scott, now that I don't have it up.
Just that this is the fastest in any MLB season that they've gotten to 6 no-hitters. I think the previous record
was end of June or something.
was the end of June or July, like something absurd. It's too much. I know when I got the notification on my phone that Kluber was pitching a no-hitter through 7.
You were like, who cares?
I was like, yeah. The only thing I wanted to say was like, I'm over it. It's too much. It's not a big deal anymore.
That's fair.
I hate it.
I kind of go the other way here. I think it's totally possible we don't see another no-hitter for the rest of the year. It's possible. A few stats to bring up here before we get into this more, but 6 of those no-hitters have been against only 3 teams, right? It's only been against Texas, Seattle, and Cleveland.
Okay, so here's where I got to stop you, because you're about to say these aren't good teams, and
no, Cleveland's a good team.
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Is how could we say Cleveland's not a good team, and then also mention them in our week of upcoming games as being a good team? So,
well, because of their pitching, though. It's their pitching that's been keeping their head above water in this season. Like, Cleveland's offense has struggled. But when you don't score, when you don't allow runs, you win games, right? So, I mean, Corey Kluber pitched a 2-0 no-hitter. Like, some of these no-hitters, it's just like nobody's putting up runs.
So that's the thing, right? Strikeouts are at an all-time high, right? It's the highest strikeout percentage league-wide in league history.
Yep.
Right? I know we both watched the interview with Theo Epstein on the Bill Simmons show, and he pointed out the fact that strikeout rates across the league are 25%. Right?
Yeah.
That's Hall of Fame pitcher in their prime numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Gets a strikeout rate of 25%. Right?
Yep.
That means every single pitcher across the league is pitching as good as a Hall of Fame pitcher in their prime every single night. Baseball's fucking broken, man.
It is broken. It is broken, and there are a lot of things that you can say that are wrong with the game currently.
Batting average is down. Strikeouts are up. Who
Sure,
the fuck
even
cares
little
if there's a home run? Like
even little things like, here's a stat that's kind of worth thinking about. The average fastball in 2011 was 87.4 miles an hour. It's 92.5 now. Like 5 miles an hour faster for the average fastball? That's a lot, man. That's a big uptick in 10 years.
that's a huge uptick.
Another little stat here for you to think about. The average starting pitcher in 2011 went 6.1 innings. The average pitcher in the Major League Baseball this year isn't at 5.
Yikes. So they're getting pulled, or they're throwing a no-hitter. That's their two options.
And offense is up too. Like, this is the thing, is that there are games like yesterday with the Red Sox and Jays where it's an 8-7 slugfest and pitching is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I mean, until I don't know what the right answer is. I don't like it though.
No.
I don't get excited about it. I don't I mean just the no-hitter of it all. Like I don't think it's anything to brag about. Sorry, can you hear my dog just
Oh, yeah.
screaming his mind out?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's wrong with him right now. Holy. he's been so bad the last week or two.
He hates all the no-hitters too.
He's
He
not a
doesn't get
fan.
it.
He's like, "Give me doubles, Dad." So.
Yeah, there are some things wrong with baseball, and I look at it, and there's a few angles here. Personally, I think that if you were to put a pitch clock in, it's going to make some difference, right? Because you're looking at 23 seconds between pitches is the average time it takes for a pitcher in 2021 between pitches. And we've talked about this before, but in 1978, the average time between pitches was around 8.5 seconds.
Yeah. 8.5 seconds is absurd. That's not even enough time to get set.
It's crazy. But that's another reason why there was so much more offense too, is that guys just got ready. You didn't see all the dicking around in the batter's box, the timeouts being called all the time, because the pitchers were ready to go. And you know what happens when you have that sort of pace on the mound? Your fielders are ready to field. Plays happen. Big plays happen, right? So I don't know the solution here, but I think there's some major rule changes coming up during this next CBA because Major League Baseball has to do something about this.
Yeah.
And it'll probably upset all of us, whatever they do.
Well, all I know is get ready for 60 more games next season. And by 60 more games, I mean only 60 games.
Yeah, right. Another 60-game season as they fight about the CBA well into July next year. But we're negative Nancy's when it comes to that. All right, let's talk Tony LaRussa. Because he's one of the biggest problems with baseball currently. In my opinion, his view on the game is one of the biggest problems in baseball.
Yeah.
Should we go over the whole situation? Most people probably already know what's happening, but Yerman Mercedes obviously was they were blowing the Twins out. LaRussa gives him a take sign. He ignores it. He swings 3-0. He hits a home run. I think the Twins lost that game to the White Sox, something like 16-4.
Right.
LaRussa comes out after the game and he says, listen, Mercedes made a mistake. There's no way he should have been swinging there. A bit of a hot dog move. And believe me, there will be repercussions within our clubhouse. Then things start to get ugly. And nobody's coming to Yerman Mercedes' aid except for his teammates, right? His teammates are like, it didn't seem like that bad. We've got his back. It's all good. Next game, the Twins throw behind him.
Right.
Trying to hit him. LaRussa comes out and says, I have no problem with them doing that. Lance Lynn comes out and obviously has Mercedes back and is like, I have a problem with it. I think it's ridiculous. And then LaRussa comes out and says about Lance Lynn, he's like, you know what? He's got a locker. I've got an office. Pretty much my opinion matters more than his. I disagree with Lynn. So there is a divide happening in this White Sox dressing room. How long do you think until this boils over? Like, do you think this is just going to smooth out?
No. I don't think it's going to go away until LaRussa's gone.
We talked about this at the beginning of the season, this scenario happening. This young, exuberant core of White Sox hitters that might be a little showy, but my goodness, they're full of talent. It might clash with the 77-year-old Tony LaRussa, an old school unwritten rule LaRussa, right?
Yeah.
And here we are, May 21st. Everything we predicted might happen has happened.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was a weird choice to bring LaRussa in. It's disappointing as a fan of baseball to watch him come out and say the things he said. It was disappointing to see him not have the back of his team. You would think as a manager, no matter what, even if not behind closed doors, all right? But you have your team's back. You have your team's back in the media.
Of course. Yeah. Just like when mom and dad disagree on the punishment for a kid, right? Yeah,
Right.
at least got to pretend in front of the kid that we
That
agree.
it's a united front.
And then when the kid goes to bed, then you talk to your husband or your wife and you go, "Hey, maybe you went a little too hard."
Yeah. I agree, man.
It's a disaster. I don't know. It's I mean, Tim Anderson, one of the best shortstops in baseball. He's on Yerman Mercedes' side.
Yeah, of course he is.
They all are, right? Like they're only going to tolerate this until they hit a losing skid. And then
That's right.
He's
Winning has pretty much saved LaRussa to this point. And everyone says, I mean, the people who are on LaRussa's side in baseball, you hear it on Twitter quite often. Look at their record. How can you even think about getting rid of LaRussa? Like, Tony LaRussa has anything to do with how good this Chicago White Sox team is.
Yeah.
He does
No,
not.
I'm
And
pretty sure
this
I
is
could
no-
pitch them to the same
this-
record.
Exactly. And this is no disrespect to Hall of Fame manager Tony LaRussa. This is just saying he is not what baseball needs anymore.
Yeah.
Should we end on Shohei Ohtani?
Let's do it.
Okay. You brought up something really interesting to me yesterday. You feel that he should be moved to the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm over it.
You want to give me your take?
What he's doing offensively, amazing, right? 14 home runs now, 15 home runs. Leads the MLB in home runs. He can pitch, right?
His starting line is pretty darn impressive.
Right. Pretty incredible on there's nothing to say other than he's a great two-way talent. That being said, 2019 didn't pitch at all. Tommy John surgery. He still hit. He was a DH all year. I say move him to the bullpen. There's no
Injuries are a concern. They are.
injuries are a concern. A second Tommy John is not something you come back from. I don't know
That is
what.
also a good point. Is to Tommy John. So a little statistic for everyone listening. 84% of pitchers on their first Tommy John make a full recovery. 24% on their second Tommy John make a full recovery. So you go from almost 100% recovery rate to 1 out of 4.
The Angels are without Mike Trout for the next at least 2 months.
I know.
And I say at least because that's what they're telling us.
Yeah.
They're saying 6 to 8 weeks. Right? Well, we saw what that meant with George Springer when the Blue Jays said, yeah, he'll be out for
Yeah.
a little, it's always,
Yeah.
you try and keep the fan base calm. You want people still buying tickets. We're not out of
That's
things. Right? Sorry, there's a whole circus going on in my house right now. Couldn't wait
Okay.
5 minutes, so let me just.
I'm trying to go outside.
All right. My wife's in a good mood today. I digress. Trout's out.
Yeah.
The team stinks.
Now,
Having him
the
start is not it's not going to be the difference in any sort of win or loss. Like, I just don't. I don't
He is
know.
their best starting pitcher.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo. I mean, I'm sure the
Yeah.
Orioles have a good starting pitcher, but
Yeah.
the Angels have something special, and I don't know. Pitch him out of the bullpen. He shows up more often. I don't know.
True. It's an interesting take. I don't really have much to contribute here, but I like the take. It's an interesting one.
I guess.
And it is something, especially with his injuries concerns and how much of a beast he's been offensively. Makes sense.
I guess the only advantage of pitching him as a starter as opposed to out of the bullpen is, I guess, out of the bullpen, he's not able to bat the whole game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas as a starter, he can hit for himself, and then he can hit on his off days. Is that the advantage? Whereas
Yeah.
in the bullpen, I suppose he wouldn't pitch every day out of the bullpen, but he's not hitting.
Yeah,
for
it
the
would be
first
tougher. It
two
would
at
be
bats
tougher
of the
to.
game.
It would 100% be tougher to work the batting lineup.
So maybe never mind. Forget
But
everything I just said.
but it's either way, it is an interesting take because he has been so injury prone, and you do wish to keep him in the lineup. I think the Angels are kind of the mindset that if he does blow his arm out, we still got the best hitter in baseball.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true.
But he has been a joy to watch this year.
Yeah.
Human highlight reel, Shohei Ohtani. He's been everything that he was pumped up to be. The Japanese
is.
Babe Ruth.
It is certainly something special that's happening over there. So if you get a chance to watch a game that he's playing in,
Do it.
do it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We really appreciate the walk-off community that has kind of appeared here. It means a lot to us. You can check us out on Instagram, the Walk-Off Podcast, at Walk-Off Podcast on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube. The Walk-Off Podcast is our channel. We've got all our interviews up there in their entirety and all of the podcasts. Of course, you can get us where your podcasts are available as well. Enjoy Zach Britton. Great little interview here. All the best to you, and we'll see you on Tuesday.